Imagine a country, not born from conquest, but from a purchase. A kingdom smaller than most cities, but with wealth that could rival an empire. This is the completely improbable story of Liechtenstein, a nation that was born from a paradox, and really has been defined by it ever since.
So first, let's just get a sense of the scale here. The entire nation of Liechtenstein covers just 160 square kilometers. Now, to put that in perspective, that's smaller than Washington, D.C. You could literally drive across the whole country in about half an hour. It's this tiny, almost unbelievable slice of land tucked away deep in the Alps.
But that tiny footprint hides a completely staggering economic reality. We're talking a GDP per capita of over $200,000. Its citizens are some of the wealthiest people on the entire planet. And this, right here, is where the paradox of Liechtenstein really begins to unfold.
And you know, this isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. This wealth translates into one of the highest standards of living you can find anywhere. We're talking pristine infrastructure, incredible wages, and almost zero national debt. It's a pocket-sized powerhouse of prosperity.
And yet, this modern financial utopia is tied to a really conservative past. I mean, it is genuinely hard to believe that women here weren't granted the right to vote until 1984. That made it the very last country in all of Europe to do so. And it's this tension, right? This clash between hyper-modern wealth and deep, deep tradition. That's the key to understanding this place.
So how does a country like this even come to exist? It wasn't through some glorious revolution or an ancient war. No, its origins are, well, they're a lot stranger than that. It's almost a bizarre accident of aristocratic ambition.
You see, back in the late 17th century, the incredibly wealthy House of Liechtenstein had a bit of a status problem. They were advisors to the Holy Roman Emperor, sure, but they didn't have any land that reported directly to him. And because of that, they couldn't get a seat at the powerful imperial diet. So what did they do? They went shopping for a country. They bought two tiny, bankrupt territories in the Alps, and in 1719, they got the emperor to merge them into the brand new Principality of Liechtenstein. But here's the thing. This was never about building a nation. It was about getting a title. For more than 100 years, the reigning princes of Liechtenstein didn't even bother to set foot in their new country. It was just a status symbol, a key to unlock political power back in Vienna. The land itself and the people living there, they were a complete afterthought.
So how on earth did a neglected, resource-poor alpine backwater transform into a global financial hub? How did it go from being an afterthought to becoming the billionaire's kingdom?
The change was, well, it was nothing short of astonishing. For centuries, this was a poor agricultural society. But then, after World War II, it made this brilliant pivot. It used its political stability and incredibly low taxes to pull in foreign money and highly specialized industries. All of a sudden, a world leader in power tools, Hilti, was based here, right alongside a booming financial services sector.
A huge piece of this strategy was to become a corporate tax haven. The laws were just so attractive that pretty soon, Liechtenstein had more registered companies than it had actual citizens. Now, this policy brought an unbelievable amount of wealth into the country, but it also brought a lot of unwanted international attention.
And that attention all came to a head in 2008 with a massive tax scandal. Faced with all this international pressure, Liechtenstein started a radical cleanup of its image. It began signing transparency agreements and working hard to shed its reputation as a place to hide untaxed money. The new goal was to be a legitimate, though still exceptionally discreet, financial center.
Okay, so now we get to what might be the most fascinating paradox of all, Liechtenstein's political system. It is a place where a monarch with nearly absolute power exists side by side with one of the strongest systems of direct democracy in the entire world.
On paper, they call it a semi-constitutional monarchy. But in reality, it's a system that's just unlike anything else in modern Europe. You have a democratically elected parliament, but you also have a reigning prince, who is much, much more than just a figurehead.
Get this, the Prince of Liechtenstein can veto any law, even a law that the people themselves passed in a referendum. He can fire the entire government. He appoints the nation's judges. These are real executive powers that no other monarch in Europe has today.
So you'd probably expect the people to push back against that kind of concentrated power, right? Well, when they were actually given the choice in a 2012 referendum, an overwhelming 76% of citizens voted to keep the prince's extensive powers. Why?
Well, it comes down to a deep, profound trust in the royal family, who they see as the wise architects of the nation's stability and its unbelievable success.
This unique political stability is matched by an equally unique take on national security. I mean, think about it. In the heart of a continent shaped by centuries of war, how does a tiny, wealthy nation with no army even defend itself?
The story of Liechtenstein's army is the stuff of legend. The last time it was ever deployed was way back in 1866. A force of 80 men marched out to help in the Austro-Prussian War. They didn't see a single moment of fighting, and they came home with 81 men because they'd befriended an Italian guy who just decided to come back with them.
After that, pretty successful, if unconventional mission, the country basically decided an army was just an unnecessary expense. They officially abolished it in 1868 and have been neutral ever since, relying on diplomacy and their powerful labors for security.
So, beyond the money and the monarchy, there are a few final little details that really capture the unique identity of this alpine anomaly.
For all of its deep-rooted local traditions, it's actually a surprisingly international place. A full third of the people who live there are foreign-born, with a workforce that commutes in every day from neighboring Switzerland, Austria, and Germany.
Geographically, it has this very rare distinction. Liechtenstein is one of only 2 doubly landlocked countries in the world. That means it's a landlocked country, completely surrounded by other landlocked countries. The only other one is Uzbekistan. And finally, I want you to consider this number 10. On a global scale, it seems pretty insignificant, but for a nation of fewer than 40,000 people, what could it possibly mean?
That number represents 10 Olympic medals, every single one of them in alpine skiing. This gives Liechtenstein more Olympic medals per capita than any other nation on the planet. It's the ultimate proof that this tiny country consistently punches far, far above its weight.
A land that was bought for a title which then became a global financial powerhouse. A near-absolute monarchy that's beloved by its democratic people. A nation without an army that produces world champions. Liechtenstein is a living testament to the idea that size is absolutely no measure of success. And it leaves us with one final, lingering question. What else is possible for a nation that was built from its very foundations on defying every single expectation?